Rural dropout prevention in the United States responds to challenges such as geographic isolation, limited resources, low population density, and fragile local economies. Yet it also draws on the intrinsic strengths of rural life, such as less bureaucracy, lower student-to-teacher ratio, and tight-knit communities with multigenerational ties to school life. Recognizing the uniqueness of these strengths and challenges, the U.S. Department of Education's High School Graduation Initiative program funded a project to provide strategic and sustainable solutions to stem high school dropout in rural America. This video gives clarity to those challenges and presents some of the successful work being done.
Geography of our county is such that we have an island that is 2.5 hours away from the mainland. The island school is Ocracoke School, and the demographics at the Ocracoke campus, as well as the economics of the island, are totally different from the geography and the economics and what happens here on the Madam Mesquite campus.
Alaska is a huge state. Many of these communities you can't drive into, and so transportation is a major issue. They're isolated. They often exist on subsistence, so hunting and fishing, just being out in nature. There's a lot of rich culture and community. The smaller communities sometimes struggle to make learning opportunities, engagement opportunities available to their students.
There's always challenges anywhere. We're a rural area, so transportation is a big issue for our students and parents. We have students that may ride over an hour and 20 minutes just to get on our campus, and then commute maybe to the local college, which is about 60 miles away, and then they do the same routine on the way back.
But we're talking school districts and communities that are isolated. Some of these kids have to go 30 to 40 miles and more just to get to school. And I think it's more pressing for students in rural, isolated areas because there's nothing else there.
One of the biggest issues is rural poverty, and that aspect of what are those kids that aren't as affluent as others? What are they doing? What are we having to do to make sure that we meet their needs just as much? You know, within urban, it might deal with poverty with urban poverty, but rural poverty is alive and well, and we have to address that in different ways so that we're meeting the needs of all of our students. We've had to change our mindset just a little bit so that we understand that and help those kids, because you know what? Not everything is equal, unfortunately. They come with different clothes, they come with different needs. It's been a challenge, but you know, it's one of those things that if you hit it head on and you address it rather than try to ignore it, that's when you're going to make a positive difference.
Based on data from over 200 interviews conducted with educators, students, and community members, the importance of keeping the learning process personalized and central to the student's interest continually emerged through all rural dropout prevention approaches. Among strategies employed, 6 particularly respond to the unique needs of rural schools to engage and support students in the learning process.
I just love that early warning system. I just think it's the greatest thing because it allows us time to get the safety nets in place, but also it removes the excuses that the districts give for why these kids fell through the cracks. Because the early warning system, what it does, it clogs up all of those cracks. So a child should not fall through the cracks.
The early warning system at the state level, working directly with school systems as well, of taking data that we might not have as either and putting it sort of in a sandbox for that school district so that they can identify student by student and see on a daily basis, is that student showing up to school, where the discipline referrals look like, and you know, it's called early warning because there's a formula that can go with it that identifies students that can be called on early, that they can start putting interventions into place at an early level so they don't reach that critical stage of, well, I'm leaving school or you know, I need to have some sort of remediation, that they can catch that student early. And so those schools that are doing early warning system, and I think this is going to become a bigger thing in our state as well, because we've just seen schools really say this is exactly what we've needed.
Says we've developed a tremendous amount of online information. It's called the data center. And on that, we have created something called Student GPS. It's kind of like your guidance system of all students. If they've been in Arkansas from at any point, kindergarten through 12th grade, we've been able to put those records together, and we've taken early indications as far as early warning system indicators, and we highlight those in the student GPS profile. We can go back and we can show pictures of the student as they have grown through the different grade levels. All those school pictures are available. We've been able to track attendance, kindergarten through 12th grade, to see if there was a specific time period that there was a bump in the road or a barrier that was created. We've done that on grades, on student activities. We have a group of interventions so that we make sure that everything at our fingertips, everything we can do is being done.
The data managers for WVDE came up with an early warning system that was put into place on the WEVA system. Attendance and behavior issues that had occurred could be uploaded nightly. Course performance, and those are the three biggies for at-risk students: attendance, behavior, and course performance. The attendance and the behavior could be uploaded nightly into the system. Course performance was uploaded at the end of a specific school's grading period.
Student-adult relationships built on intentionality employ methods that enhance trust, respect, and students' personal expectations for education and success. Drawing on intergenerational ties inherent in small rural communities, these positive relationships enhance students' motivation and self-efficacy.
When we look at the research on dropout prevention, what we see are two qualities that really just keep jumping out again and again as important qualities that help students stay in school and persist and persevere. And the first is having a very strong personal relationship with an adult who's really invested in them, their learning, helping them achieve their goals, and quite frankly, who is there to lend them a little bit of grit and a little bit of stamina when the going gets rough, as it always does in high school.
What we learned as we did the survey that was part of Iowa Safe and Supportive Schools was that adult-student relationships was really an area that Iowa students were challenged on. We had 21 schools that participated, and that was the lowest area for all of them. So based on the index, we knew that student-adult relationships was where we needed to start, and that certainly has to do with re-engaging and re-enrolling students. It just was a natural fit.
So we started there and had some wonderful people facilitate workshops for our schools, and at those workshops they brought a team of people. So they had administrators, teachers, maybe a guidance counselor, a parent, brought together a diverse group so that they could hear everyone's voice, and didn't always bring students, but always made sure that the student voice was represented in a youth leadership team at the building level. So one of the biggest things really was for the adults to go back and ask the students, what would it look like for an adult to care about you? If you were to answer, I agree, that an adult cares about me, what would they be doing? So that really was a starting point, was getting more data from the students.
And I think when we looked at the data and the survey results, there was a strong difference between what the students reported their experience was and how connected they were with adults in the building, and how the adults in the building thought that they were connected with the students. So there was a gap there, and so that's why that drilling down and going back and saying, you know, what does respect look like for you? What does a caring relationship look like for you? We were fortunate at the beginning stages of the grant that we partnered with ISU Extension 4-H that helped to provide training on positive youth development and adult youth partnerships, so that adults had a better understanding of the importance of youth voice, that the students in the building wanted to be partners in their education and had a lot of great ideas and on how to improve the conditions for learning.
One of the things that we do every single day is when the students come in, we have door-to-door transportation for our students because they come from such a wide range of places. So when every kid comes into school, the majority of our staff is outside greeting them, saying hello. And you know, initially they start out as sullen kids who avoid you and who just walk right by you. And sometimes after a while, every time by the end of the year, every kid is saying hello, and they expect that, and they anticipate that, and we might be the first friendly face, and maybe sometimes the only friendly face they see in that day. So that's the most valuable thing we have as a school, is to be able to provide kids with a place where they feel welcome, a place where they feel safe, a place where they feel valued. So we start the day with that, and that's the biggest thing we do as far as school safety, is we make them feel like this is a place you belong.
They run into discipline problems because of their frustration in the school, in the classroom setting. You treat each child differently. You get to know the kids, and then once you get to know them, then that's where you go with them.
You know, we're not big like other schools, so we get a lot of time with our teachers, and we get some longer periods, and we all kind of grew up knowing each other and our family. Like, I've known Miss Wonder for years before she was even my teacher, so I've experienced working with her, and I've had, you know, the same, 10 classmates since kindergarten, and it's a really just one big community.
Especially those students that have come to our school system with a zero knowledge of English or mastery, is helping them get the basics so they could succeed in the classroom. But on the other side, which I find as important as helping my students, is also having those parents at home be connected with us.
Ha habido maestros, han habido profesores, o ¿cómo le puedo decir? Mentores que me han ayudado a que mis hijos sigan estudiando.
Student voice and leadership strengthen students' sense of self-worth and their ability to affect change. In rural communities in which shrinking economies can breed stagnation, engaged students initiate change and produce creative solutions to improve school environment.
My folks were kind of more encouraging to go out and do more, be more involved. And so around my sophomore year, or it was my freshman year, Ms. Sunheim talked me into filling out this application for a student advisory board. I used to be like a shut-in, kind of, and kept to myself, but my sophomore year I just kind of turned over a new leaf and kind of started to encourage others and just kind of have like a more positive attitude and a more positive outlook on life. And I think that is part of why Hardin has gotten to the point it's at, is because it's like, by the time I became a senior, there was people looking up to me already, and so I kind of changed the precedent a little bit for seniors to be kind of mean and stuff, and more of supportive and guides.
Intuitively, we know that students are more willing and able to learn when they feel empowered in shaping the academic and social environment of the school. Hardin's integration of student voice into school culture and their corresponding 11.5% graduation rate increase in the last 3 years support this notion and serve as a reminder to all of us that students do better when their voice is heard.
I know what impacts students because I have a student advisory board, and we talk a lot about the importance of graduating. And the student advisory board is not made up of just the valedictorians of the class, although they are present, but also students who dropped out of school and dropped back in. And they bring to that conversation the issues of wanting relevance in their classroom, the importance of a caring adult to support them in their effort.
We're trying to design programs and efforts to help the students, and the best way to find out what's going to help them is to get their opinion and their input. So we invited 16 students, 4 from each grade level, and it's totally optional. We've never had a student say no, and every year we always say, all right, you don't have to do this year, and we've never had students say, nope, I just don't want to do this anymore. So I feel like they think that it's a very valuable experience.
School and community involvement engages multiple organizations and community members. While well suited to draw on local organizations for support, schools in rural communities are also expanding their resources by collaborating across districts and with potential employers in need of local, educated workforces.
The people that we look to in local communities to help advance the cause for early childhood education and education, high quality education in general, is always the superintendent of education, faith-based leaders, business leaders in the community, that range from bankers to small business owners, early child care center directors. We look to board members, and we also look to teachers and parents and students to try to have them all involved in the process, because we feel that the problems can't be solved just working at the grass tops. We have to make sure we work the grassroots to the grass tops in order to make a change in education.
We were able to come up with some themes, to develop some themes that we thought would be important for students in North Dakota to know about Native Americans in North Dakota. So basically this document, the North Dakota Native American Essential Understandings, will basically outline basic concepts that every educator in North Dakota should know about Native Americans. And these themes and these essential understandings will come from the elders. We feel it was very important to get their input because they would know what students should know about them in North Dakota, the different tribes and reservations.
Standing Rock Educational Consortium is something that is unique to schools and to tribal nations. It is something that was created because of the struggles or the challenges that we face with our students. Why aren't they being successful? And if the schools can communicate with each other and see what is happening, what is having success, what isn't having success, and they could share that information, and they could try to repeat some of the things, but at the same time set goals for Standing Rock. What is our educational goal for the tribe with the resources that we have, with the directives that we have from the funding source? What can we do? And the consortium, in my opinion, has been very successful in breaking down communication barriers. Instead of having having schools that compete against each other for funding, they're actually working together. It doesn't matter what state they're from, or if they're tribal or BIE or state-funded, tribal or BIE-funded schools. They look at best practices and what can work and what can't work, and how can they better provide an educational system with the resources that are available.
The commodities, the agricultural products, lumber, and energy commodities that are produced in Montana. And as a large employer, we're always looking at recruiting from the communities that we're serving in Montana. And in 2014, we were looking to fill more than 500 positions in Montana, many of them in eastern Montana that has been significantly impacted by energy development in that part of the state. And we have learned through many years of practice that our ability to retain employees in rural communities is significantly increased if we can recruit people who grew up in those communities. And in order to do that, it's important that that the schools are graduating the kids that are growing up there.
So when we have parents working together, the legislature working together, the governor's office working together, the superintendents, everybody working together on behalf of children, wonderful things happen for kids.
Individualized instruction recognizes the student's interests, the uniqueness of the rural context, and the kinds of careers that can be developed and sustained in that environment. Career and technical education and individualized learning opportunities are hallmarks of this approach.
When I arrived here, there was a student who should have graduated. He's bright, brilliant, and the administrator prior to me didn't. They didn't have personalized learning, and they didn't have flexible pathways. And he didn't make it. And had he had that, I think he would have made it, because instead of making him sit in a class 7 hours a day, you know, and you will do this, and you will read this book, and you will do this, I think, and what happens with many students is they'll act out. You know, if they're bored or if they don't understand, they're going to do that because that's what they want to do, is be out of class. And this particular student didn't make it. He could have stayed here and done our tech program, had there just been more flexibility and less rigidity. I just feel like by not personalizing his learning, we kind of cheated him out of an education.
Anybody who's been in education for very long has, like maybe in some cases more than a few days, has had the experience of working with kids who don't want to be where they are. They don't consider the education to be relevant to them. They're not invested in it, and they would pretty much rather be anywhere else this side of a dentist chair. The flexible pathways, personal learning plans, I see as a systemic way of improving the perceived relevance of education to the students. And that has to improve the engagement.
We also are a part of a program called Project Search, in which our seniors who are on IEPs are allowed to go up to Sioux City and work at Mercy Medical. We have a certified teacher from our school who's up there with them, our school, Winnebago and Walt Hill. And so those students get to work in the emergency room, they get to work in the cafeteria. We had a student last year who worked in the morgue. The main thing is our kids get off the reservation every day. And this is every day, this is not once a week. They leave here, they meet in Winnebago, they drive up to Sioux City, and they're in Sioux City every day. Go to class for 3 hours and they work for 3 hours. And it's been fantastic, great experience. They've been featured in the local newspapers, they've been featured on the local news in Sioux City. The governor of Nebraska has recognized the program. Some kids really want to go to school, but they really want to get that work experience, something exciting, something to look forward to. We have a student, we couldn't get her to come to school last year. Her attendance was about at 60%. And now her attendance is at 90% because she's getting a chance to go up there and work in the hospital, and she sees a future in that, and that's been a great way to get our kids excited about school and excited about being here.
There have been 2 areas of focus recently that have developed to solve the need to keep the rural students engaged. The first is the short-term residential program that exposes them to career, technical, driver's license, just some urban opportunities. And then the second option that we've developed recently is the distance delivery using technology. So, webinars or over the internet or over the phone, delivering courses to rural communities.
Well, the distance in general, it really offers options to students. So we run into all sorts of different reasons that students take our classes. Some take them because it's not offered in their school, or they don't have a highly qualified teacher in their school, so the only way they can get that high school credit is through us. Others, maybe it just fits their learning style. Some do it so they can accelerate. They're advanced students and they don't want to have to wait till they're juniors to take that junior level class. They can take the online class when they're freshmen if the school thinks that's appropriate.
For a school like this, it would be impossible truly to offer, first of all, credit recovery classes like some students take if they failed a class, or even enrichment classes. They offer a lot of electives through our online program that we simply are not able to offer here in the building.
Getting students access to academic supports while helping them shape a positive attitude towards change, identity, and success are key elements of effective dropout prevention strategies in rural communities.
I was falling behind my freshman year since I slacked off a lot. I was really behind credits. I did think about not coming to school anymore because there was no way for me to catch up. So Ms. Wolf had told me, well, there's Play-Doh classes that you should take. But I had heard about Play-Doh classes that they were really hard. I mean, it takes hours to finish the classes, but you really got to dedicate yourself to it. It was hard. I didn't want to do it, but it's a good opportunity to get caught up in your credits.
As soon as in the first semester, if a student has failed a class, they're immediately invited to come and join this Why Try class. It's a regularly scheduled class. It fits right into their day. They get credit for it. And it's not mandatory. They have the option to say, no, I don't want to do this. But basically what it is just a class to try to get them to build some skills that maybe they're lacking that other students do, resiliency skills, how to bounce back from when things don't go your way. So Why Try is really just about helping them figure out ways to overcome those obstacles so they can bounce back from those hardships in life.
One of my close friends, she was in it last semester, and she always told me when we sat down and talked, she always told me how that going with that teacher and other students, she didn't feel lonely because she knew she wasn't the only one that was going through those problems. And now her grades are just going up so fast. That's really impressive what that program has done to her.
We talked about why you should try in school, why it is good for you, and why you need a high school education and that diploma, and what you would be needing it for later on. Like, I was like, no, like, there's no point of me trying in school. I don't think I need it. But she pointed all the good things out why you would need it, and she stuck through my side and everybody else's side saying, like, this is why you should do it. She makes all the students feel really important, and that's what I like, she made me feel like maybe I could do something, and maybe I should keep trying, and I could be better than what I am doing now.
Freshman house is comprised of 3 teams, very much like you would see in the middle school team setting. 4 core teachers within each team, math, English, science, and social studies. And they have approximately 75 to 80 kids within their team. They get to know those kids very well. They're able to communicate with one another. Have you noticed something is going on with this youngster or that youngster? They're in close contact with parents. So kids quickly identify with the team. So they're gradually entered into the high school. They're able to take a couple of electives in the bigger school, but that small school feeling is maintained, and the ability for us to quickly get our hands around any problems that may be going on occurs.
National numbers show through research that those that graduate with a skill or have an interest in a CTE career pathway or coursework, they're more likely to graduate or come back to school and be able to be trained and work towards a career.
So we're talking things like welding, wood shop, and also building a small building for construction.
What we're called is a short-term residential facility. So we bring in students, we give them very focused training in an area of their choice. I think that in itself is just really wonderful for students. Normally they'd have to either leave their region for these training programs, or they would have to go for a long stint for a semester or year-based program in a residential facility. So our program is novel in that sense because it's short, it's focused, and generally students can get out of our program with pretty much 1 to 3 certifications from their food service card, their driver's license, as well as their American Red Cross, just to name a few of the smaller certificates that are given here.
One of the students, I had him in alt ed the 2 years before this one. He's always been a very mechanical kind of student. He can put stuff together, he can wire stuff, he can do that. And to show him that what you think is just things that you picked up at home that doesn't matter is actually science and technology and engineering. It showed him that he's been doing science all along. He just didn't call it that. He's been doing STEM all along. He just didn't realize that's what it was. And whenever he saw that, I think it gave him a boost of confidence that I can do whatever I want if I try hard enough.
In Arkansas, we have a law that states all districts will have an alternative education program. The word is actually a alternative program. They can have any grade level or any group of grade levels as long as they're following the rules, but the law mandates every school district must address how they're providing an alternative setting for our students that are not getting their needs met in a traditional classroom.
Oklahoma's dropout prevention strategy is alternative education academies. It mandates that each school district across the state have an academy or a plan to educate their most at-risk students. Part of my job is dropout prevention education, technical assistance, plus oversight of those alternative education academies.
We have a daycare center here in the school that houses we can have up to 6 infants and 8 toddlers. And we have currently 5 students who have kids in our daycare. And so that helps too with the dropout rate. Our kids can come and they can go to school and their kids are within walking distance through the school. They're right here in the building. And every student who is expecting, boy or girl, who's expecting or has a child has to take parenting for the rest of the time they're here. So if they have a baby as a freshman, they have to take parenting every year, and it progresses through the years. But we want to teach them how to be good parents, how to make sure their kids have the proper nutrition and all those things. But the main thing we want to do is we want to keep them off the streets and have them somewhere safe for them to take their child so they don't have to worry, so they can complete school. And that has really helped with the graduation rate also.
And if you heard the panel yesterday of students and how they all said the importance of knowing who they are. And basically, when I was listening to that, I was thinking, basically what they're talking about is loving themselves.
One of the biggest things in growing up and moving on with your life, starting your own life, is knowing where you came from, knowing who you are in order to know where you're going and who you want to be. So I think, growing up, I wasn't too into the culture part of being Native American and being Lakota. But my grandma really, she, was always adamant about learning your language. Learn your language because, it's dying out for a lot of tribes and cultures, and she just always wanted me to learn. And then she died when I was young, so I didn't really have anybody to teach me because my mom didn't learn. So when I got to high school and middle school, I made sure that I took the classes that I need to, that in order to try to at least learn a little bit of my language, learn some words, and put a couple sentences together at least, just for a start. I took 2 years of Lakota at McLaughlin, and I'm still working on the culture part of it. I'm trying to, get in touch with people that I can in order to, go to Sweat and Sundance and try to learn all those things that I didn't get to learn growing up. So I think that was, and knowing that and knowing that I know some of my language helps me get out in the world and be proud of who I am and where I came from.
The fact that they're loving who they are, and that we know leads to confidence, and confidence leads to self-efficacy, and then leads to, I can try that, and you know what? If it doesn't work the first time, and I don't succeed, I'm going to try it again. Resiliency. So all of that is a process, and I think it starts here.
Drawing on the importance of personalized learning and the strengths of rural communities, states are using diverse and innovative programs to enhance school engagement and reduce dropout rate among rural students. These exciting changes are energizing academic experiences and enhancing post-secondary and career readiness across rural America.